If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law of Life provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law of Life with Gary C. Johnson and Keith Casebolt.
Hello, everyone. Keith Casebolt back with you. Welcome in to Simply the Law of Life radio show created by my dear friend across from me, Gary C. Johnson.
Wonderful life.
Isn't it?
And I'll say it again, my friends, wonderful life.
Now, Gary, is it just because you and I have gotten a little bit older that we have this reverence for life and we appreciate it? Do we have young people listening to this program going, don't you, the two of you know all the problems going on in the world?
Most of those problems are self-created.
Yes, they are. And it's hard for us to realize that, isn't it? Because we start out as kids blaming everything that goes wrong on everybody else except ourselves.
My goodness, how could we be to blame? Well, you look back, which is a waste of time, by the way.
We have figured that out.
Unless you've learned from it.
And it's a good memory that you can relive.
Right. And you say, I could have done this, I could have done that. But if you did anything different than what you did, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah. You
now,
know.
The question is, would you give up being where you are today?
And the people that are with you today.
Right.
And mostly the answer would be no, you wouldn't.
We've been reading from the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and Nancy Collier's book, Can't Stop Thinking. And I forgot about my book, Chatter, by Ethan Kross. So I said, it's time to read a little something from old Ethan's book.
Yeah,
he had some really good ideas, too, about how to deal with the voice in our head.
You know, this voice in your head, I've been taking this little hike every morning about 6:30, and I am now documenting down all of the stories that go on, or if you would, all of the movies that go on in my little 25-minute walk. It is amazing at how many different subjects you will cover in your head, chatter-wise, in the 25 minutes it takes you to walk that walk.
It is amazing.
And
the different places it'll go.
Yes, and what was the number that we read, Gary, that you will have how many thoughts?
60,000 thoughts a day.
So think about that. Each day, we're going to have 60,000 thoughts. And out of those 60,000 thoughts, was it 85 or 90% are going to be negative? So it's almost laughable.
Some may be 100%.
Yeah, it's almost laughable that you're sitting here thinking, I've got to be exposed to 55,000 negative thoughts in one day, and somehow I'm supposed to come out and be happy.
So let's read a little bit from this book.
Let's do it.
Often the things I tell my daughters to help them rein in their chatter, to try to help them. Sometimes I'll admit they roll their eyes the way I sometimes did with my dad. But over time, I've noticed that both of them have begun to implement many of these practices on their own, cycling back and forth through the different techniques they have at their disposal in their unique style as they discover what works. In this way, I hope that I could help my daughters harness the conversations they have with themselves throughout their lives. I also remind my daughters and myself that while creating a calming distance between our thoughts and our experiences can be useful when chatter strikes, when it comes to joy, doing the opposite, immersing yourself in life's most cherished moments helps to savor them. The human mind is one of evolution's greatest creations, not just because it allowed our species to survive and thrive, but because in spite of the inevitable pain that comes with life, it also endowed us with a voice in our head capable of not only celebrating the best times, but also making meaning out of the worst times. It's this voice, not the din of chatter, that we should all listen to. I haven't been in touch with Ardell since our last class together, so she doesn't know what her question inspired, and she's talking about a question he'd asked. Mm-hmm. She will, though, if she ends up reading this book. And that question was back in the book where she said, why weren't we taught this before?
Yeah. Why didn't somebody do this when we were young?
One of his students in his class.
Uh-huh.
This book is another attempt to share the discoveries that science has revealed, but haven't yet rooted themselves in our culture. In a certain sense, there are too many ordeals to count out in the world. Some of you may be listening to this, by the way. People hungry to learn about their own minds, how they give rise to chatter, and how it can be controlled. So I wrote this book for them and you, and for myself. Because no one should have to pace his house at 3 a.m. in the morning with a Little League baseball bat because of chatter. Okay?
Gary, now this brings up a couple of good points I want to ask you about. First of all, when he said, I tried to talk to my own two daughters, and they kind of rolled their eyes. What is it about us as human beings that I can look over and say, here's Gary Johnson. He's already been there, done that, did this. Instead of me going and trying to make all these mistakes on my own, why not come to you and let you tell me about the pitfalls that are ahead of me, how you handled them, so I don't have to go through that? Why do we resist going to someone who knows and has been there?
Because we don't trust that they really know. That's the problem.
So we think we are...
we have the answer.
Yeah. So we are smarter.
That's why you and I are reading these books.
Because we know different. We know we're not. The other thing I wanted to ask you about the student who said, why didn't we hear about this before? Why are we not doing that in the school systems? We're teaching math, we're teaching biology, but we're not talking about the thoughts in your head that keep you from achieving all the things you can.
And they're not talking about the things that really matter in that sense, because it leads to suicide, the pressure of the classes and their chatter, all of those things. Honestly, my friends, I hope you're listening to what we're saying when we come to the chatter box in your head. That little old thing that is generally negative, that makes you feel bad about yourself, that makes you feel you're not worthy, that makes you feel you can't do something, makes you feel that other people are better than you. That darn voice in your head. Now, there's all kinds of good stuff from the voice in your head that is positive that you can use, but that's constructive stuff. That's the stuff you need to be paying attention to.
You know, I know a young lady that was in pharmacy school, 4.0, brilliant. In going for the test, her hair started falling out. She started losing her hair because of the pressure and the stress, but she knew the information. She was 4.0, she was brilliant, but still the stress of what the voice was saying, and we just saw it in the Olympics. Simone Biles, the greatest female gymnast probably of our lifetime. Something happened with her mental health to where she could not perform.
What about the tennis player?
The tennis player who just won the big U.S. Open and pulled out because of the pressure of the voices. It's happening to everybody. Nobody's immune from this.
And really, it should be a required course in high school, maybe middle school, and college. How to deal with the voices in your head.
I think you're absolutely 100%
I firmly
right.
believe that. And then he goes on to say, okay, I'm going to give you a little help here, folks.
All right.
To help you in this process, I've summarized the techniques discussed in this book, organized them into 3 sections: tools that you can implement on your own, tools that leverage your relationships with other people, and tools that involve your environment. Each section with the strategies that you're likely to find easiest to implement when chatter strikes, and it will strike. Building up to those that require a little more time and effort. Okay, let's talk about tools. First one he gives us is use distanced self-talk. And I think that Nancy Collier talked about this, and Eckhart Tolle too.
Yeah.
One way to create distance when you're experiencing chatter involves language. When you're trying to work through a difficult experience, use your name and the second person you to refer to yourself. Doing so is linked with less activation to your networks associated with rumination and leads to improved performance under stress, wiser thinking, and less negative emotion. He said, call your chatterbox, give it a name, call it your name, call it you, call it whatever, but you distance yourself
So
from
what
it.
this does, this places this situation or problem on somebody else. And now we're looking at it in a third person, and then we can give great advice. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Here's all you need to do to overcome it. Why should you be upset? We're distancing ourselves from it and making it so as if though it were on someone else.
And you say, okay, Gary, you really think that's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. And here's why I think it's a great idea. All of us can admit that we can give great advice to our friends, our co-workers, no matter what the problem is. We tell them, oh, be calm, you can overcome it. But if it's our problem, the emotions run wild, and we think it's the end of the world.
Okay, number 2, imagine you're advising a friend.
Right, there we go.
Another way to think about your experience from a distance perspective is to imagine that you would say to a friend experiencing the same problem as you. Think about the advice you would give that person and then apply it to yourself. And it'll always be different than what your chatterbox is saying.
Okay, let's use the example. We talked about the celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain, who took his life. Had a friend called him up that night and said, Anthony, I'm depressed. I'm thinking about taking my life. There is no way Anthony Bourdain would have told that individual, yes, you need to take your life.
That's right.
He would have told them, you've got everything to live for. It's going to be okay. But he couldn't give himself that advice.
And you're important and you're needed.
You're a miracle. Why would you do that? Things are going to be better tomorrow. But he couldn't give himself that advice.
Okay, number 3, broaden your perspective. Now, we're talking about dealing with the chatter in your head. Chatter involves narrowly focusing on the problems we're experiencing over and over and over. The natural antidote to this involves broadening our perspectives. To do this, think about how the experience you're worrying about compares with other adverse events you or others have endured, how it fits into the broader scheme of your life and the world, and or how other people you admire would respond to the same situation.
So, all right, you and I were traveling to Lexington to record the television program. I'm going down on a beautiful day, looking at the scenery. All of a sudden, there's 2 cars beside of each other on the 4-lane, and they're blocking traffic, and I feel myself getting upset over absolutely nothing. And you're saying when you look at the big picture of what people are dealing with, you mean to tell me I'm going to waste my time on getting angry because somebody is in the fast lane driving slow?
Or even having a little emotion about it.
For what reason? Why should there ever be road rage? We've seen people get killed because of road rage, and this book is saying, in the big scheme of things, isn't that the most petty thing that you could ever get mad about?
One of the attorneys asked me yesterday on the phone, said, are you mad at me or whatever? And then instantly they said, nah, you're not. You never get mad.
You don't. And that was the thing I was thinking of when my emotions boiled up. I said, if Gary were in the car with me right now, he would say, boy, what a great opportunity to drive slow and look at this beautiful, beautiful mountain.
And make sure we don't get a ticket.
We don't get a ticket. We're not going to be in an accident. We're going to be safe. But those little things that we let pop up and control us, it's crazy that we do that.
Okay. Number 4, reframe your experience as a challenge. The theme of this book is that you possess the ability to change the way you think about your experiences. Chatter is often triggered when we interpret a situation as a threat, something we can't manage. To aid your inner voice, reinterpret the situation as a challenge you can handle, for example, by reminding yourself of how you succeeded in situations in the past, or by using distances self-talk to discuss it.
So when the chatterbox says, oh, you're not going to be able to do this, or you're going to fail at this, You're saying we just have a conversation and say, well, I faced it once before and I did quite well. I do know what to do. I do know how to handle it. I'll bet I'll be able to do it again. So you're taking it on as a challenge, and then you're going through all of the reasons why you can succeed?
And always remember, folks, you're one of a kind. Remind yourself of that. Remind yourself of all the accomplishments you've had and all the good things that's happened in your life, if you have to.
You know, it's always amazed me that you've been on this program and you talk to people about being one of a kind and being so special and a miracle, and yet you have had people say, but Gary, I'm just little old me. And they have texted you or emailed you or met you in the store, and I've heard people say, yeah, but I'm just little old me. That doesn't apply to me. And I said, no, that's the whole purpose of what he's telling you. It does apply to you.
It does. There's no such thing as little old me. If any of you are thinking, even if your chatterbox has told you you're a little old me, please ask it why in the world it feels that way.
Well, is it from the time that we're children? You know, are we in the group that plays together, or are we left out? Am I in the club? Does it start with that kind of stuff?
It must do it. I don't know, but I've never met anybody that wasn't special, ever. I meet people every day that's special, constantly.
100%. Yeah, you call them VIPs.
Absolutely. They're waiting on me or helping me do something.
Yeah, or as you said, the client that walks into your office is a very important person, if not the most important person.
I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Sunday, I went through the line at Kentucky Fried Chicken to get some chicken. And this very nice lady waited on me and took my change and then handed me the things. And I just looked over at her and I said, you are so nice. Thank you for being out here Sunday working so that I can get this chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, see, that's the attitude that I think we're trying to get across to everyone listening. The thought that you can just hop in the vehicle on a Sunday when most people have the day off, go to the restaurant, and be served.
Yeah.
That is really neat.
She was a VIP to me.
And
I'll tell you that.
It takes somebody to be there to do it.
Yeah. Okay, number 5. Reinterpret your body's chatter response. The bodily symptoms of stress, for example, an upset stomach before, say, a date or a presentation or anything else, are often themselves stressful. For instance, chatter causes your stomach to grumble, which perpetuates your chatter, which leads your stomach to continue to grumble even more. When this happens, remind yourself that your bodily response to stress is an adaptive evolutionary reaction that improves performance under high stress conditions. In other words, tell yourself that your sudden, rapid breathing, pounding heartbeat, and sweaty palms are there not to sabotage you, but to help you respond to this challenge.
You know, the first time I realized that was real, I had a really great friend in high school. This lady was brilliant, 4.0. We had to do an oral book report. She could not do it. She got so upset, she could not go up in front of the class and do the oral book report. I'm talking about the smartest kid in the school. And the teacher said, this is going to lower your grade. You've got to do it. She could not do it because of the stress and the pressure of walking in front of that class.
That's the chatterbox. That's the voice in the head.
That's what
we're talking about.
And she had all the symptoms that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. She was physically ill over the thought of having to get in front of that class and make that presentation.
That's why she needed to have a course like talking about this so that she could learn to deal with those things. And it affects, how many of you people have been messed over in the past that are listening to this because of that voice in your head, that you didn't do something you wanted to do, that you didn't go in business or do something you really wanted to do
Go for that job promotion.
because your voice talked you out of it. You didn't try to get that promotion or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's thousands and millions of times that happens to us inside of our own head. Now, why it's there, I'll never know.
You know, if we made a list, let me ask you, if we made a list and we put down all the bad things that people have done to us, that our friends or coworkers or whatever, and here's all the bad things they did to us, and then we came over here and made another list, here's all the bad things I did to myself because of what my voice in my head said, the list would be 100 times longer.
Absolutely. No question about it. If you were honest when you did the list.
Yes. If you were honest and said, this is what held me back.
Okay, number 6, again, he's talking in terms of any of you just came on board here, tools you can implement on your own to help you deal with your chatterbox. Okay? Number 6, normalize your experience. Knowing that you are not alone in your experience can be a potent way of quelling chatter. There's a logistic tool for people to do this. Use the word you to refer to people in general when you think and talk about negative experiences. Doing so helps people reflect on their experiences from a healthy distance and makes it clear that what happens is not unique to them, but characteristic of human experiences in general.
Gary, are some people just blessed with the ability not to be troubled by the chatterbox? I ask you this because I talked to a businessman one time, and he told me about how he got started from humble beginnings. And I said, didn't it worry you about failure? And he said, you know, that's an odd question. I never thought about failing. If this guy had just been blessed with the ability not to have that negative thought that this could go wrong.
On that issue.
On that issue.
But I'll bet you on other issues in his life that the chatterbox got him.
More than one occasion, I'm sure. Yeah. But just on that example of saying, I never did think about it. I thought that was an interesting response because most of us build up all the things that could go wrong without ever contemplating the thing that could go right.
I know an attorney that was absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't practice law because he was smart enough to know all the reasons why he couldn't do something.
So he basically destroyed his own case.
Every time.
Because he would come up with all of the things as to why this should fail and not work.
And I know lawyers that aren't that brilliant that are extremely successful because they don't have sense enough to know they can't do it.
They're not held back by it.
That's right. They're not held back by that.
Yeah. They just walk in believing they're going to win, and they do.
So the stuff we're trying to talk about is extremely complicated for us.
It's a work in progress.
And understanding a little bit about the human mind will give you what I call one ninth step that others might not have. And learning how to deal with your chatterbox, if you can just a little bit, you will be way above most people out there.
Well, I've had a few people ask me, I'm listening to the show and I'm watching the television, and you're really buying into this. I said, well, let me tell you why. I'm 57 years old, limited time left on this planet, and whatever time I have left, I want it to be a happy time. I want it to be a good time. I want to savor every minute of it, and I don't want to waste any of it on negativity or being unhappy. And if I can do the things that you're reading from this book, or I can implement just some of them, it's going to be a better life.
Unbelievably better.
And that's what we all want, isn't it?
Right. That's why we're reading these books.
Unless it's the one lady who wrote you and said, I'll never be happy and I'm not going to be happy, then we can't do anything about that.
Number 12, when the chatterbox really takes over and takes after you, my friends, perform a ritual. Performing a ritual, a fixed sequence of behaviors that is infused with meaning, provides people with a sense of order and control that can be helpful when they're experiencing chatter. Although many of the rituals we engage in, for example, silent prayer, meditation, are passed down to us from our families and cultures, performing rituals that you create can likewise be effective for quieting chatter.
Now, from the sports world, I know this for a fact. Certain baseball players had to have the same meal every day. They had to eat the same thing. Golfers have to have their lucky coin that they mark the ball with. Mm-hmm. They have to have a certain hat. Everybody goes through a little ritual that's a safety net to say, if I've got this, I'm okay.
And that ritual is nothing but a way to combat the voice in your head that's going to sabotage what you're doing.
So basically it's saying if I rub my lucky rabbit foot, that means I'm okay and I'm protected from these negative thoughts. And we think that's funny, but it actually works.
Sure it does. Now here's tools that involve other people when your chatterbox takes off on you. When we think about the role that other people in our lives play in helping us manage our inner voice, there are two issues to consider. First, how can we provide chatter support for others? And second, how can we receive chatter support ourselves? Tools for providing chatter support to others that may not be listening to this program, okay? Mm-hmm. And we'll give you the first one. Number one, address people's emotional and cognitive needs. When people come to others for help with their chatter, they generally have two needs they're trying to fulfill. They're searching for care and support, on the one hand, emotional needs, and concrete advice about how to move forward and gain closure, on the other, cognitive needs. Addressing both of these needs is vital to your ability to calm other people's chatter. Concretely, this involves not only emphatically validating what other people are going through, but also broadening their perspective, providing hope, and normalizing their experience. This can be done in person or via texting, social media, or other forms of digital communication.
So I come to you with a problem and I say, oh, Gary, I'm upset over this problem. And you look at me and say, it's not that big of a deal. You know what to do. You're going to be okay. Suddenly, I'm okay, and I do the things that I know to do, and there's no problem because you give me the validation that I need that it's going to be all right.
Another tool for receiving chatter is this. Build yourself a board of advisors.
Napoleon Hill. Think and grow rich. So he formed him a board of directors.
Inside of his brain.
And he had the smartest people and the greatest people in the world, and he would go to them for the advice.
When the chatter started taking off and ask them what they would do.
And it worked.
It worked for him, and he got really rich.
Yes, he did.
So build a board of advisors. Finding the right people to talk to, those who are skilled at satisfying both your emotional and cognitive needs, is the first step to leveraging the power of others. Depending on the domain in which you're experiencing chatter, different people will be uniquely equipped to do this. While a colleague may be skilled at advising you on work problems, your partner may be better suited to advising you on interpersonal dilemmas. The more people you have to turn to for chatter support in any particular domain, the better. So build a diverse board of chatter advisors, a group of confidence that you can turn to for support in the different areas of your life in which you are likely to find your inner voice running amok. And I strongly recommend you just appoint you a board of advisors in your head.
What a great support team to say that you can pick all of these people. My friend, we've had a great program and just about run out of time. Good lesson. And again, the lesson is all about being happier and more productive and achieving your goals.
That's the goal this year.
And that is the goal. You can catch Gary's television show Tuesday nights on WYMT, your CBS affiliate, at 7 p.m. A late night replay is on WKYT in Central Kentucky, your CBS affiliate. Start the week early or the weekend. Catch us on your Fox affiliate, 6:30 a.m. on Monday morning and 6:30 a.m. on Friday morning. If you have a question or you'd like to reach out to Gary, you can do that, Gary at GaryCJohnson.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebold. As always, we look forward to seeing you again, same time next week.
Thank you for listening to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.